Imagine a night in Assyria. A husband steps into the courtyard and finds his wife with another man. The neighbors hear shouting, then the slap of sandals on stone as runners fetch the elders. In the space of a heartbeat, what was private becomes public. But here's the twist that makes Middle Assyrian law so stark, so chilling. What happens to the woman is largely the husband's choice: death, mutilation, or mercy. That isn't drama we invented, it's how the law was written on clay. In the Middle Assyrian law, several adultery provisions hand extraordinary discretion to the husband. He could have both lovers executed on the spot. He could maim. He could forgive his wife. And in some cases, his choice determined what happened to the other man's body too. Let's walk through what those rules actually said, what they meant for women and men, and how an offense of the heart became state business. First, let's have a look at why adultery was a serious crime other than moral sin. In ancient Assyria, marriage was mostly a family agreement, not about love. Families wanted children to continue the family name and inherit land. If a wife had a relationship with another man, it created doubt about who the father of her children was, which could threaten property, family honor, and future inheritance. Because of this, the law focused on protecting the husband's household, not on feelings. Adultery was seen as harming the entire family, so the punishments were very harsh. The husband had the power to decide what happened next. What the Middle Assyrian laws said: if a husband caught his wife with another man, both could be put to death. But the husband could also choose different punishments. He could have his wife's nose cut off, and the other man could be castrated, which meant he could not have children. If the husband forgave his wife, he could still punish the man, or let him go, especially if the man didn't know she was married. Sometimes the husband could punish them immediately, without a trial. If the case went to court, judges were involved, but the husband's choice still mattered most. If someone lied and falsely accused a woman, they could be beaten or fined. In the end, the husband had the final say in what happened. Why the nose? The meaning behind the punishment. Cutting off someone's nose sounds shocking, and it is. But this punishment is actually very old. In many ancient societies, cutting off the nose was used to shame someone. When a person lost their nose, everyone who looked at them would immediately know something serious had happened. It was like wearing your punishment on your face every day. In Assyria, people believed that cheating in marriage didn't just hurt feelings. It damaged the whole family and community. So the punishment had to be something that everyone could see. A missing nose was like a message. This woman broke the rules of marriage. And for the man involved, the punishment was often castration, which meant he could no longer have children. Since having children and passing on the family name were extremely important in Assyrian society, this was seen as a way to prevent him from ever threatening another family's bloodline again. So, the woman got a punishment others could see, and the man got a punishment that took away his ability to father children. It was a harsh way of showing that men controlled family lines, and women were expected to protect them. Women at the center, but without a voice. Even though these laws were mainly about women's actions, women didn't get a say in the decisions. The law was written and enforced by men, the husband, judges, elders, and witnesses. If something happened, like cheating, the husband decided what would happen next. The wife couldn't speak for herself in court, and she rarely got to defend her side of the story. To be fair, the laws did protect women in cases of rape, where the woman had no choice. In those cases, the man was punished, and the woman was not. But when the relationship was seen as consensual, meaning both people agreed, the law said the woman had broken loyalty to her husband, and she was the one held responsible. In Assyria, and in many ancient cultures, a woman's body was treated as part of her husband's household, while a man's power and status came from being the head of the family. That's why the law punished the woman so severely and gave the husband control over the final decision. A walkthrough story. 3 paths from one night. Let's go back to that Assyrian courtyard and turn the legal levers. Husband caught his wife with another man. What happens now depends on choices and proof. Path 1. Death. The husband catches his wife and the other man in the act. In this law, both of them could be put to death. If the husband chooses to kill his wife, he must also kill the man. The people watching would not be surprised. This was seen as a normal legal choice at the time. The wife's family loses a daughter forever. The husband becomes known as the man who killed his own wife, and that is something people will whisper about for years. It is a dramatic ending, but also a heavy burden. Path 2. Mutilation, physical punishment. The husband decides not to kill his wife, but he still wants to punish her. He orders that her nose be cut off. This marks her forever. The law then says the other man must be castrated, meaning he can no longer have children, and his face may also be disfigured. The wife will now live with public shame, because everyone will see her missing nose and know what happened. She will likely never remarry or live freely. The man will live with pain and the loss of his ability to have children. Everyone who sees them will remember that one night and the husband's choice. Path 3. Mercy, but with control. The husband chooses to forgive his wife. Maybe he still loves her. Maybe he needs her help in the household. Maybe he fears that the gods would punish him for killing. The law allows him to show mercy. Depending on the situation, the other man may be allowed to go free, especially if he says he didn't know she was married, or the husband may still decide to punish him. The wife stays alive, but things are never the same. She now knows that her life depended on her husband's decision. He holds the power, and she will live under that shadow. The marriage will likely feel different from that day on. In every one of these paths, death, punishment, or mercy, the outcome depends on one person. The husband. His choice shapes the fate of both his wife and the other man. At her wish, when desire changes liability. A particularly telling line says that if a man has relations with a wife at her wish, there is no penalty for that man. The husband lays upon the woman, his wife, the penalty he wishes. That flips modern intuitions. The consensual lover steps aside legally. The wife bears the brunt. It's a legislative way of saying, your desire endangered the house. You pay for it. Justice versus courtroom proof. Another stark feature is the contrast between on-the-spot justice and formal adjudication. If caught in the act, the law imagines immediate action. If the case moves to judges, there's room for proof, oaths, and witnesses, and penalties for false accusation. Was this purely Assyrian? The wider Near Eastern pattern. Assyria is severe, but not alone. Old Babylonian and biblical laws also criminalize adultery, often mandating death for both parties, framing the offense against the husband. What's distinctive in the Middle Assyrian material is how explicitly the husband's discretion is written into outcomes, and how mutilations are paired. Comparative studies show this isn't a moral outlier. It's a sharp edge on a shared blade. The feelings behind the laws. We can read the old laws on clay tablets, but we can only imagine how people felt. Husbands may have felt angry, embarrassed, or deeply hurt. The law forced them to make very serious choices, and some of them likely regretted what they decided later. Wives lived with fear every day. One rumor, even if it wasn't true, could change their whole future. They had to be careful with every word and every action. Lovers took big risks. Being with a married woman could cost them their bodies or their lives. Neighbors were always watching, which meant private love quickly became public business. The Middle Assyrian Law was not just a set of rules. It showed a world where keeping order was seen as more important than personal feelings, and where men had the final say, while women had very little voice. Why this still matters. Even though this happened long ago, some of the ideas still appear in parts of the world today. Some people still believe that a woman's choices belong to her family. Some still think that men must protect honor and control relationships. Public shaming still happens, just in different forms. In the end, these laws didn't just punish actions, they shaped people's entire lives. When love becomes something controlled by law or by others, the pain can last far longer than the moment. Real change comes when we ask who has the right to decide another person's fate, and why. If this deep dive opened a window into how ancient laws still echo today, hit like, share it with your favorite history nerd, and subscribe for more clay tablet truths that still shape our world. And tell me below, if mercy sits beside power, is it really mercy? Or just another face of control?